Well, we made it to Moab today after about 17 hours of driving. Way too many uh, sections with road construction and whatnot. Took quite a bit longer than I had anticipated, as is usually the case. But anyway, tomorrow morning we start on, I start on a 7-day canoe trip on the Green River in Utah, inspired by Greg Yoder of CelebrateDiversity.com, and with a lot of helpful tips from Troy at MattyTheGoose.com. So two canoeing websites that if you see this video, you should check out because they know a lot more about it than I do. I'll try and video as much of this as I can, and take a bunch of pictures, and hopefully put together something decent to throw up on YouTube at the end. Hope you enjoy the trip. I plan to, and be talking to you later. Thanks. Bye. Well, it's the morning on day 2, and didn't take any video yesterday because the scenery wasn't all that spectacular north of Ruby Ranch. But we're about 3 miles south of Ruby Ranch right now, and there's this really cool cliff wall that hangs right over the river. Yesterday afternoon the wind came up really bad, about 3 o'clock or so, and I had a heck of a time finding a place to camp. I didn't really want to camp on the beach at Ruby Ranch, but I got to the point where didn't have a whole lot of options, and the bank was either mud flats that were knee deep in silt, or straight up tamarisk that was just impenetrable. So eventually found a place, got camped, got some dinner, got a good night's sleep. I actually feel a lot better this morning than I did when I went to bed last night, physically at least. And I'm going to turn this off and paddle before I crash into this cliff. So it's very early on the morning of day 3. Ran into a bunch more wind yesterday afternoon. At one point had to grab some shelter on a ledge alongside the river because it was so bad I could barely control the canoe, and I was getting water over the bow, and it was looking worse up ahead. Eventually it calmed down enough to where I was able to get back in the water, and but it was still pretty rough. I had to cut short my schedule yesterday. I planned to make it to 10 Mile Canyon, which is at about river mile 80 and a half. Wound up instead camping at Bull Hollow, which is at about river mile 84.5. So I have a little extra paddling to do today, but luckily the forecast is supposed to be a little more fair today. So hopefully, knock on wood, we don't get the kind of wind we got yesterday. It's really quiet. I dropped my Nalgene bottle in the hull of the canoe this morning. It sounded like a gunshot going off in the canyon. You can see over to the right the sun just starting to hit the tops of the canyon walls on the west side as the sun rises in the east. And some of the river's inhabitants are starting to wake up, hearing a few more birds. Startled a beaver this morning. Wasn't able to tell if it had been recently stuffed. Well, it's 11:05 in the morning, and we're now rounding Spring Canyon Point, which is the last turn before we enter Bownot Bend. So we're at about mile marker or river mile number 72 or so right now. Started at 84.5 this morning, so made good time, doing about 3.5, 4 miles an hour or so. Math is hard right now. The weather has been like this. It's flat, which is welcome change from the last 2 days where it's been super windy. And knock on wood, the wind doesn't come up again today. Yesterday it came up at about 11:30 in the morning, and it didn't die until, oh gosh, 4 or 5 o'clock when I was sitting eating dinner. So probably closer to 6. The canyon walls, as you can see, have gotten exponentially higher. And I don't know enough about geology to point out the different layers, but you can definitely see there are multiple different strata of stone in there. I know one of them is Navajo sandstone. I don't know which one. Maybe the red one. They all look kind of red though. I don't know. Anyway, gonna shut this off and paddle some more. While I'm waiting for the water to boil for my dinner, I thought I'd give you a little panorama of my third night campsite. I think you can hear hopefully one of the last gusts of wind blowing through. Wind came up at about 1 o'clock today, just like it did yesterday, but not as intense and not as consistent. And here's home sweet home for the night. Behind us is Bow Knot Bend. You can't see it because we're up against these tamarisks here. So we're at the lower southern end of Bow Knot Bend. So in the morning we'll get up, we'll paddle around the remainder of Bow Knot Bend and continue heading down the river. I'm going to try and do another day like today, bank about 20 miles, and hopefully have some time at the end for some hiking around down by some ruins that are closer to the confluence with the Colorado. Couldn't make any landings today where I wanted to go. The one place that I could get at one of the Julian inscriptions, I guess the inscription is up a pile of rubble, and I had visions of that kid from between a rock and a hard place, and decided out here by myself not to go doing any rock climbing. So that's it for now. Gonna go have dinner. Well, it's the morning of day 4 at about 9 o'clock in the morning. I started paddling this morning at about 5 after 7. Hopefully trying to pile on some mileage before the wind comes up, if it does, which it probably will, but here's hoping it doesn't. Just went past Horseshoe Bend, which incidentally marks the halfway point. So actually we're at river mile 58 now, a couple miles past halfway. So I'm kind of excited about that. As you can see, the cliff walls are getting incrementally steeper every time I turn this thing on. And so far the conditions this morning have been great. Hope that holds out. I'm going to shut this off now. Bye. Well, it's 1:33 in the afternoon on day 4, and I was successful in getting in the mileage that I wanted today. And just as I got to the distance that I'd wanted to hit, a bunch of clouds rolled in, and they started making a bunch of noise and lightning and thunder, and then it started to rain. And I wanted to be camped over on that side of the river, and but I wasn't able to find a place where I could take out that would allow me to get up the bank. So I'm on the other side of the river, I believe the west side, in this sort of small side canyon, and I'm choosing to not pay attention to the house-sized rocks that you see that have fallen around here. My thinking is that they fall due to erosion. Erosion happens due to water, although it did just rain, although not much. I'm thinking that odds are there won't be any big rocks that fall on my head tonight. I had to come up this little wash here from the beach to get to my spot where I'm camped, which is quaint, if a bit small. At least I've got some shelter around me if the wind blows again today. It hasn't yet, which is nice. That's what allowed me to get my mileage in before, or at least at a decent hour. First failed piece of equipment on the trip is this item here, a Gerber folding saw. First time I tried to open it, it did open, but now it won't close. So I'll have to take this thing back to REI when I get home. That's what I get for not buying the more expensive folding saw that Troy on Matty the Goose uses and recommends You do indeed get what you pay for sometimes. Although I didn't pay for this campsite, and it's pretty bitchin'. And I didn't pay for that view over there out my back door, and that's pretty bitchin'. And all in all, everything's pretty good. And I'm going to shut this off for now. Oh wait, hey, look at this. You see way over there, that big arch where the stone is cleaved away underneath the overhang there. That's kind of awesome. See those kinds of formations a bunch. I have no idea what causes that. I'll have to ask the guy who's the shuttle driver, who incidentally has a degree in geology. This is a piece of white rim sandstone. I don't know much about geology, but I do know that. And I also know where white rim sandstone comes from. And it comes from up there. That's about, if I had to guess, no less than 1,000 feet. And here's this booger here, and where, as you can see behind my tent, probably 20 feet above the river level. There's another interesting piece of geology of which I don't understand. But I think that this is Navajo sandstone, and you can see that it's been eroded kind of interestingly. I don't know if that's by water, when the water was at a different level than it is now, or if by wind and blowing sand, but it's pretty cool the way the stone is eroded away over time. Kind of makes you wonder about the whole concept of mankind being able to profoundly affect the earth. I mean, when you think about it, this whole canyon here was created by that river down there. All of this stone, all of this rock was removed over time by something infinitely more powerful than we are, and infinitely more resilient. When I was looking at earlier at a campsite, which I didn't stay at, I found a small Anasazi ruin, a little cliff dwelling that was built from dry stack rock. Thing's probably been there for, I don't know, 500 years, 1,000 years, who knows. But people come and go. The Anasazi are gone, but the earth remains. And I think there's a lesson to be learned in that, in humility. So, as I'm sure you can hear, it started raining again. So I'm back holed up in the tent. You can see a cliff wall out through the window there. And I don't know if you can see the water on the window, but I'm sure you can hear it. It's 2:30 in the afternoon on day 4. And luckily I got in all my miles before this mess started. But hopefully it is short-lived and I can get back outside and cook some dinner later on tonight. I don't know if you'll be able to pick up the light or not, but we're having a heck of a thunderstorm right now. It's about 7:30 at night, 8 o'clock at night. Hopefully it doesn't last all night so I can get some sleep. I wanted to try and catch a couple of lightning flashes and thunderclaps. So I'll just be quiet for a minute. Pretty cool. Well, it's Thursday morning, and I've been paddling for about an hour. I don't know if you can see that sign there. It says now entering Canyonlands National Park. So we are now into the lower half of the Green River. There's actually, this looks like a rather short cliff, but if you look up there, there's a much taller cliff above it. Crazy quiet and still this morning after the thunderstorm last night. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of a fog left over the river. There was quite a bit of it when I got started this morning. Made navigation a little bit tricky, to say the least. I'm gonna get myself onto a stretch of river here that I can put the paddle down for a little while and have my breakfast, because I'm hungry. It's almost 10:30 in the morning, and we're at roughly river mile 37 according to the GPS, just a little bit shy of there, which means we've covered 11 miles this morning, which isn't bad. There's been a couple of straight stretches of river that are pretty slow, similar to the one we're in now. This is a stretch called Potato Bottom, and Tower Park is along our right hand side, that stretches between the area where Fort Bottom is and nothing in particular that has a name. That's the only landmark, but it's about 3.5-4 miles just as straight as a string, and the channel skips sides of the river at least 3 times now, and it's really tough to figure out where it's going. The only clue is to follow these lines of bubbles in the current ahead of you, but if there's even the slightest puff of a breeze, it pushes those around any way the breeze is going, as opposed to the which way the current is going. So it makes it pretty difficult to figure out where the deep water is. Consequently, I've grounded on a sandbar twice just in the last couple of miles, and had to step out and push it off into deeper water, which is not a big deal, just a bit surprising when you're in the middle of a big hunk of water and stop. So anyway, it's awful quiet and awful pretty. Particularly quiet in relation to last night, our camping adventure with the fireworks show outside. Luckily, didn't wind up crushed by a rock the size of my house coming down off the cliff behind my tent. So the goal today is to get to, I think it's called Anderson Bottom at Bonita Bend. Oh, almost dropped my paddle. Yeah, Anderson Bottom. Yes, Anderson Bottom at Bonita Bend, which is supposedly a very nice campsite, which would be a welcome change for some of the ones that I've had so far. So I'm going to shut this off now and get paddling. Hopefully we can get there before any weather pops up. Knock on wood. That hasn't worked so far, but hopefully this time it will. Pretty cool cliff wall right here. The echoes are pretty great too. Goes right down to the water. And overhangs pretty well too. That right there, water against rock. Did all of this. We're at Anderson Bottom, a place called Bonita Bend. I don't recall the river mile number, but what's interesting about this is this rock wall to my right used to connect to that rock wall out there. So what Anderson Bottom is the old route of the river. You see where now it busts through to the right. It used to go all the way through here and around the corner there, which is the other end of this rock wall, and then go out over there on the other side of Bonita Bend, which you can't see. It's behind those cottonwoods on the far side of that bottom on the other side of the river there. But at one point, many moons ago, the river busted through this meander and shortened its route by about 3 miles. And another interesting thing here, don't know if you'll be able to see it on the video, is on the rock wall over there is a petroglyph panel. I'll try and get closer and shoot some pictures and video of it if I can from another angle. But that's way up on the cliff. Those cats had a flair for the dramatic, if nothing else. But anyway, my first bitchin' campsite of the trip. I'm underneath one of those cottonwoods down there next to the river. It's a pretty spectacular spot. Okay, another look at the petroglyphs. This time, better angle, a little closer. Sure wish I knew what these meant. There's some sort of symbol. Looks like paddles in it, I don't know. There's a guy. There's two guys and a snake and a sheep. And there's another guy with something carved out in his chest. And then there's some tracks. Looks like deer and bear. The bear one's really hard to see. And another sheep. And then here's 3 more human figures with a small human figure. So I suppose this is all telling a story. But I don't know what it is. Okay, we got another view here that'll show the layout of Anderson Bottom a little bit better. Again, that rock wall over there used to be connected to this rock wall right here. And the river used to go down the valley that way for about 2.5 miles or 1.5 miles, and then come from down there and then join up with the river there. So this is the way it looks now, though. And I'm guessing it's called Anderson Bottom ostensibly because somebody named Anderson maybe once farmed this place. There's a levee down in the bottom that was built to control the stream that flows through it, and there's a spring that was dug out of the rock wall on the far side there, and a dwelling in the cliff wall, both of which dug by hand, obviously. So I'm guessing whoever farmed this land at one point lived in that dwelling and used the spring for irrigation. There were cattle ranchers out here in the old days, back before it became a national park, so maybe that's it. It's 8 o'clock in the morning on day 5, Thursday. No wait, Friday. And I've been on the water since about 7:30. There's supposed to be some cliff dwellings right here on the left, but I think they're masked behind the tamarisk. This stuff is everywhere. It's kind of clogs the banks the whole length of the river. It's a non-native invasive species that they're trying to find ways of getting rid of, but causes all kinds of problems. Anyway, it's a beautiful morning. It's calm. River level seems to be up about 2 inches over what it was when I landed yesterday, judging by the bank where I was moored up. And there's a lot of debris in the water today. There's not any right here immediately around me, but previously there was quite a few sticks and logs and a lot of pine needles and stuff like that. And there's a hunk of cactus floating in the water right by me. So it must be debris from the thunderstorms the other night that's finally made its way into the river down the various tributaries. But it's a beautiful morning. I'm going to enjoy a fantastic Cliff Bar breakfast again. Getting a little tired of those things, but they're convenient. And that's about it. Well, here I am at just below Horse Canyon. That cliff wall up there that's still lit up is the outlet of Horse Canyon. A big hunk of sand just fell in the river. There's a couple camped on the beach across the side channel from me. I don't know if you can hear it, but just at the other end of this island there's a rapid that's formed due to the outlet flow from Horse Canyon dumping a bunch of rock in here, which incidentally I'm standing on some. And as we pan around, we can see my canoe and the sand dune, or sandbar, excuse me, that I'm camped on. There's home sweet home for the night. And around that bend is the rest of the river, well, the remaining 14 miles at least. The current really picked up today. It was very easy to maintain a 4.5 to 5 mile an hour pace on the river, even without working very hard at all. Mostly relaxing and looking around and just sort of keeping the boat moving in the right direction. There's an interesting rock formation out there. I'm going to try and zoom in on it, see if you can see that bugger balanced out there. It's pretty cool. But great day on the river today. It was a little warm in the afternoon. It was about 100 degrees here when I stopped, and when the sun dipped behind the cliff behind me, it dropped to about 84 degrees in less than a half an hour. So tremendous difference in a very short period of time. But a lot of fun today. And as you can see, the canyon walls have closed in considerably relative to last night. Once we got out of the Tower Park complex, which has fairly wide bottoms on both sides of the river for miles and miles, close to 25 miles worth. Once we got out of that area, the canyon walls closed in, as you see here, from about Turk's Head on down. And canyon, I guess, is maybe 125, 150 yards wide. A little bit wider here where Horse Canyon comes in, but it's narrower up above, and as you can see, narrower down below. Consequently, the river is narrower as well, and that, I'm guessing, accounts for the increase in speed of the current. But nothing but sheer cliff walls now. There's no more wide bottoms in the inside of the corners. There's a little one there, but from the looks of it from here, there's no room behind that tamarisk wall at all, whereas further up in the canyon, or further upriver, you go inside of the tamarisk and there's meadows where you can camp. Not so down here. Hiking up this side canyon at about river mile 10. It's called Jasper Canyon. That's the river canyon behind me, and this is the flow, the creek flow for Jasper Canyon. And the significance of this is apparently some of the more extensive ruins and cliff dwellings along the river. So we'll see if I can find them. It's a pretty cool canyon though. Apparently it's one of the few that were never farmed or grazed after the surveying of the river. So we'll check it out here. Well, this is the back of Jasper Canyon, and even to my untrained eye, it's pretty easy to tell that this is formed by large amounts of water moving through here. Some interesting erosion in this rock over here on the side. Lots of swirling around and turbulence, I guess, to cause that. And then these really cool pockmarks in the rock that I don't know how that's caused. I think maybe there's varying densities of the rock and it causes it to erode faster in certain places than others. I'm not sure. But if you look up there, in that dark spot, there's a little bit of water falling and creating that slick right there. But over here, there's a much bigger one. Get as close as I can without getting my camera wet. Pretty sure you can hear it. There's the water falling. It's coming from up there. Good 200-300 feet up. So that's pretty bitchin'. And I do believe, I don't know if this is spring water or if it's runoff from the mesas from the thunderstorms the other night, but one way or the other, I'm going to put this camera down away from here and rinse myself off in some non-river water. It's 1:45 on Saturday, day 6, and I am about 2 miles away from the confluence with the Colorado River. So in about a half an hour, because it takes me about 4 miles, it takes me about 15 minutes to cover a mile. In about a half an hour, I will have crossed over into the Colorado and completed 120 miles in 6 days and 13 hours, roughly. So, feeling pretty good about that. This has been an amazing trip, but I'm just about ready to be home and be with my wife. So, gonna paddle now and get this done so I can, the quicker I get back, or the quicker I get there, the quicker I get to Moab, and the quicker I get to talk to my wife. And for all intents and purposes, we've arrived. The point on your left and the point on your right are the end of the Green River, and the bank on the opposite side is the Colorado. And behind is 120 miles of paddling. And I've got about 3 to go to get to my campsite. So this is my last camp. I'm at Spanish Bottom in the shadow of the dollhouse, which is up there. That's about 1,000 feet of climbing to get up to it. Not doing it. Too pooped. And with my heel cracked open, it's probably not a good idea anyway. But it's kind of cool to be done. It's a pretty tremendous experience. Beautiful place. Not sure I'd do it again, at least not by myself. But pretty glad I did it. Little panorama of the cliffs around Spanish Bottom. And we have our ride tomorrow back to Moab at about 11 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully I'll be able to sleep a little bit in and have a proper breakfast and some coffee and mop out the boats and be out of here.
There's 3 down there.
Good morning!
And here's our ride. They're gonna go downriver and
Okay, we'll be waiting.
pick up a couple of other folks, and then they'll be back for us.
One of them is gonna drive
The
the
school
boat
bus.
trailer, and the other one's gonna drive the bus. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Why have more employees than her? That makes me nervous.
Yeah.
That's coordination.
Yeah. They've done this before, I think.
Yeah. That still makes me nervous. watching
Yeah.
that. Somebody gets out of sight.
Yeah.
Big piece of machinery like that. The ultimate of float-ons. So you're gonna do a YouTube on your trip?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I got to get some.
Send me the link. Send me the link.
I got to get some video editing software or something like that. But yeah, I'll throw it together.
Oversized load.